All right, in this particular video, we're going to be going over different concepts: slope-intercept equation from graph, slope from 2 points, or actually slope-intercept form from 2 points, and being able to write linear equation word problems. We're going to be covering all three topics today, so make sure you have, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to draw a grid, all right, an XY coordinate grid. So I'm going to have my x-axis running along this way, and my y-axis running, oh, that's horrible. I'll try it again. Going down, all right. Now, what I'd like us to do, all right, is I would like us to put a point right here, all right, and I want you to put a point right there. So this is our first line. Remember, I'm gonna do 4 lines today, all right. So this will be our first one. So I want you to put a point right here at 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you would label it 2, comma 5. And the other one's at negative 2, 3. So I'm going to put negative 2, 3. And then, if you would, carefully, as best as you can, draw a line going through those points. And over here, in orange, I'm going to write y equals mx plus b. Now, we all know m represents the slope of the graph, and b represents the y-intercept. Right, so the first thing I'm going to interpret, I'm going to look at, is I'm going to look at this point right there. All right, and that point right there is at 0, 4. So what does that point represent? I have a class in here, so I'm asking them. I'm not really, you don't have to answer if you're watching this online, just, in your head maybe. What's that represent? The y-intercept. So right here, if you guys would, that 0, 4 right there, that 4 is going to go right there. That plus 4 is going to go right there. All right. The next thing we have to figure out, is the slope. We know that's going to be an x. Now on the Khan Academy, they're going to have like an empty box for you to put something in, and there's going to be like an empty box for you to put something in. It'll say y equals. So we have to establish what's called the slope. So what I got to do now is I got to figure out what's happening. Like, how much does it go up and how much does it go over? So see how I'm looking at 2 points, right? So how much would you guys say it goes up? Goes up 2. So we call that the rise. And how much does it go across? 4. So I'm going to put the run equals 4. The run equals 4. So remember, when you're doing slope, what do you always do? The rise over the run. So we're going to put the rise of 2 over the run of 4. Now, sometimes when you interpret slope, it's not going to be simplified. Is this fraction simplified? No. So what would be the simplified fraction? 1/2. So 1 over 2. So we'd have to put in the box 1 over 2. If we put 2 over 4, will they count that correct? No, because they want the simplified form. So the actual answer is y equals 1/2 x plus 4. And that would be your answer. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a point right here. I'm going to put a point right here. All right? I'm going to put a point here and here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to make a red line pass through those 2 points. Now, this point right here is at a -1 and a -1. So this is at -1, -1. And this is at +1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is at 1, -5. And what I have to do is I need to draw a line going down along those points. All right, so do your best. That's not it. Hold on. 1 second, I got to answer the phone. All right, so right here, I'm just going to do my best to draw a line going through these points as best as I can. All right, so there we go. So this right here also is in y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to put y equals, I'm going to put an empty box, x plus an empty box. All right, so What would be the first thing that you guys would probably want to figure out? What would you guys say? The y-intercept right there. So we got the y-intercept. So you can find the y-intercept, and it looks like that ordered pair is at a 0 and a -3. So in the box, you'd actually put like a negative. It says plus, right? So in the box of the Khan Academy, you put a plus a -3. All right. Then what do we have to figure out? We got to figure out the slope, right? What number do we put in next to the x, which is the considered to be the slope? So let's take a look at this. There's a couple of ways we could look at this. One way is you could go, well, let me change it from an arrow. We could go down 2 and over 1. Or we could go, instead of going down 2 over 1, we could go down 4 units and over 2 units. Does everybody see the difference here? Like, what's this? What's that gap? That goes down 4, and that goes over 2, but this one goes down 2 and over 1. So if I go down 4 and over 2, that's equal to what? -2 over 1. But what would I put in the box? I wouldn't put -2 over 1. I just put a -2 right here. All right. So what would be my final answer if I had to write it? I'd have to write y equals, I'd put -2x and put -3. That's how you would write it if you had to like fill in the blank and write an equation in slope-intercept form. Now, something's interesting here, and something we're going to be covering here pretty quick, and that's called perpendicular. Okay? It's not going to be in this assignment, but you need to know what perpendicular slopes are. So perpendicular slopes. By the way, here's the symbol for perpendicular. You might want to write it down in your journal. Anytime you see this upside down T, capital T, that means perpendicular. Does anybody know what type of angle perpendicular lines make? It makes a specific angle. Yeah, a right angle. Very good. So it always makes 90-degree angles. Perpendicular slopes are what's called negative reciprocals, okay? Negative reciprocals. So if I have a 1/2 slope, that's actually perpendicular to the -2/1 slope. It's very important that you guys know what a negative reciprocal is. A negative means if this is positive, this is negative, and reciprocal means it's a flip, like you're just taking the numbers in, flipping them. All right? All right? So you can think of them as flipping opposites. All right? 1/2 is perpendicular to -2/1. All right, let's do one more example. If I say 3/2, if I had a 3/2 slope, what would that be perpendicular to? What's the flip of this? 2/3. What's the opposite of a positive? Negative. So 3/2 would be perpendicular to -2/3. Can everybody see on their drawing, if they did a drawing, can you guys see that right angle that you guys created right there, that 90-degree angle? No, I'm talking about between here and, yeah. So what I'm saying is this. Where's my protractor? There it is. All right, so I take my protractor and I rotate it. Can you guys see how this 90 degrees like that fits right in there? Okay? All right. Now I said I was going to do 4 lines. I'm just going to do 2. I think 2 is enough. This is a good example for what? Perpendicular slopes. So if we go over to the Khan Academy, and I'll go and take this off. Let's go to the Khan Academy. Let's take a look at this line right here. Let's take a look at it. Now you don't have to draw this, okay? Just kind of work with me here. I'm going to do a couple of these and that's it. Then we're going to go on to the next section. What's the first thing, if I was going to look at this, what would be the first thing that I would do? The y-intercept, right? Right there. So what number is my y-intercept right there? So right here, I'd put a -6. But now I actually have to figure out, I got to figure out what other point can I use? Well, can I use this point? Absolutely. How about this point right here? Would that work? Yes. So I got to go down 1 and over 4. So what would be my slope in this particular case? What's my rise over my run? Close. negative 1 over 4. It's not 1 over 4 because it's going what? It's going down. So that has to be, that's negative 1 over 4. So here, what do I have to put? Negative 1 over 4. And that's what you guys are going to be doing. But I want you guys to have a couple of good examples in your journal. See how I had to type in a negative 6 and I had to put negative 1 over 4? All right, let's do one more and see if you guys understand what it's asking you to do here. What's the very first thing that I have to do? Y-intercept. You guys see where it is? Right there. So what am I going to have to put? In my box, I'd have to type in a negative 9. So when I'm doing these problems, I'm telling you this is the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. Write down your y-intercept, then we have to establish slope. So I have right here, I got a y-intercept, then I travel up right there. That would work, correct? Right here would work, right there would work. But what's happening each time? How much do I have to go up and over and up and over and up and over? Goes up 4 over 1. So what's my rise? It's 4. What's my run? 1. But do I type in 4 over 1? No, I just type in a 4, so I got to put a 4 there. And it's a positive 4. It's not a negative 4. What would a negative 4 slope look like? I'm just do a quick little example. A negative 4 slope would look like if you had a point here, and you had another point right here, and it would go what? It would go down 4 and over 1. So if you had a line that was going down, that would be a negative 4 slope. And then we put negative 9. Okay? All right. So what's the y-intercept here, guys? 4. So we'd put a 4, right? Then what do I have to establish? A slope. So right here, I'm going to put a point right here. And what would be the next point? Tell me when to stop. Right there? You're right. That's where I stop, because that's where it goes through it perfectly. How much does that go up, and how much does that go? So that's a 2/3 slope, because the rise is 2 and the run is 3. Remember, you always put the rise over the run. All right? Am I just typing this in, or am I proving myself before I type it in? Yeah, proving myself. I'm not just typing numbers in. I'm writing them down. I'm proving to myself that this is the right answer. That's what I want you to do. All right? Now, here's all I want you guys to do. Now, I'm going to do one of these by hand, all right? But when you guys see 1 and a 4 and a 2 and a 2, and it says write it in slope-intercept form, what do I immediately want you to think of? Desmos. So what do I want you to do? I want you to be able to go to Desmos and see if you guys remember the steps, okay? So we're going to take a look at this. What I want you guys to do right now in your journal, I want you guys right now to write this in your journal, and I want you to write these ordered pairs and y equals. We're just going to do one of these, and that's it, okay? We're going to do one of these. We're going to do it by hand, and we're going to show you how to do it in Desmos. So I will write it down with you. So just stay along with me. 1 and a 4 and a 2 and a 2. This is how you would do it by hand. I'm labeling this x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. The slope formula that you will see on your formula chart will say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's what it will say. So if I want to find the slope of this graph, this is what you would do. What is my y2 value? My y2 value is the number 2. And what's my y1 value? 4. What's my x2 value? 2. What's my x1 value? 1. And then you would do 2 minus 4, which is negative 2, 2 minus 1, which is positive 1, and that would give you a slope of negative 2. So in y equals mx plus b, my slope I know is negative 2. All right, so now I'm going to use slope-intercept form, and I'm just going to use the ordered pair 1 and 4. what does 1 represent? My x value. 4 represents my y value. So I'm going to highlight them, so hopefully you'll see what I'm doing here. This is my x value. This is my y value. And what does m represent? That represents my slope. So I'm going to highlight m in green. I'm going to highlight my x in blue. I'm going to highlight my y in red. So knowing, just color coordinating it, what number would I plug in for y? 4, correct. What number am I going to plug in for my slope? -2. And what number am I going to plug in for my x? 1. And then over here, see where it says plus b? I'm just going to put, I'll put it in green, orange, plus b. So here we go. So we have 4 equals -2 times 1, and -2 times 1 is -2, plus b. So if I add 2 to both sides, I get b equals the number 6. So what did my b value end up equaling? 6. So what would I write right here for my slope intercept form? I would write -2x plus 6. That would be my answer in slope intercept form. That's what I would write. Now, in Desmos, what does Desmos do? It does all the work for you, all right, if you just type things in correctly. A 1 and a 4 and a 2 and a 2. So let's go to Desmos. We'll get the same answer, all right? So let's go over here. Let's go over here to Desmos. We hit the little plus sign. We make a little table. We had a 1 and a 4 and a 2 and a 2. All right, so we have 1 and a 4 and a 2 and a 2. After you guys have these points, we have to remember the phrase that pays, which is y1. Then there's a tilde. Now, if you don't know where the tilde is on the keyboard, you could still go down to this keyboard right here, and you got to go to A, B, C, and there it is right there. And then I'm going to type in M, X, 1, plus B. So you need to remember this phrase right here. Y1 tilde mx1 plus b. And what does it say our slope is? Right there. -2. Everybody see that right there? -2. And what's our y-intercept? 6. So what's really the only thing you have to know how to do in Desmos? You have to know how to write everything in, you still have to know how to write it in slope intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Sorry, I put a plus 6 there. All right, so our answer is still y equals -2x plus 6. All right, so go over here. Oh, go over here to right there. And I'm going to put y equals -2x plus 6. Y equals -2x plus 6. Okay, now I'm not going to do this one by hand. I already have the ordered pairs, -10, -7, -5, -9. Try to remember those. Ready? -10, -7, -5, -9. So right over here, I'm just going to type in -10, -7, -5, -9. And automatically, it gives me my slope and my y-intercept if I did everything right. I think I did everything right. You're like, well, can you put in decimals? Sure, you can put in decimals, but here's the thing. That's a discrete decimal. What decimal is that actually, sorry, what fraction is that actually equal to? That's equal to -2/5, and we have -11. So I'm going to write -2/5 x minus 11. If you don't know what the fraction is, all you got to do is just type in -0.4 and then hit the little fraction guy, and it'll change it. The only time that it won't work is if you have, say, like a repeating decimal, like 0.333333. You got to keep typing it in, and then eventually you can change it to 1/3. So don't put 0.333 or 0.666 if it's a 1/3 or a 2/3. That would be bad. So -2/5 x. So I'm going to write in. I'll go and do -0.4 because that will still work. All right, minus. It says use exact numbers. Those are exact numbers still. And it was what, -11, I think. Yeah. All right, so I'm not going to do any more there. Last thing we need to do right now, guys, is I want you guys to write this down. This will be our last problem that you guys have to write down, and then you guys have a chance to work. That's it. Last problem. I want you to write writing linear equation word problems. All right, and you don't have to write all of this, but there's some important things that you need to remember. All right, so I want you guys to write down everything that's in the box. Please write down everything that's in the box. All right, I'm probably going to butcher this person's name, so if your name actually is this name, I apologize. I'm just going to pronounce it as Naoya. Naya? Naoya? I don't know. Apparently he read a book. There we go, butchered it again. Read a book cover to cover in a single session at a rate. Key word, guys. Anytime you guys see the word rate, what is the rate always deal with? Slope. Now listen, I'm going to put M equals 55. But wait a second. After 4 hours, he had 350 pages left to read. So, it's our slope's not going to be positive 55. It's going to be negative 55 because it's talking about pages left to read. So here's what I need you guys to do. I need you guys to make a little table here. All right? Make a table. Make an X and a Y table. It says after 4 hours, see how it says X represents hours? So after 4 hours, how many pages did he have left to read? 350. So this is where you're going to really need to focus in on understanding how to use Y equals MX plus B. What number am I going to put in for the M value? I'm going to put in the negative 55. What number am I going to plug in for X? Correct. And what number am I going to plug in for Y? 350. There you go. That's what we have to do here, okay? So right now, they've given us information, but we still have to find the Y-intercept. So my Y value is 350. My slope is negative 55. And my X value that I'm plugging in is the number 4. And then I'm going to put over here, I'm just going to put plus B. So right now, in your calculators, I would like you guys to multiply negative 55 times 4 and get me an answer, okay? Negative 55 times 4. What'd you guys get? Negative 220. All right, we have negative 220 plus B. So to solve for B, what would we have to add to both sides of the equal sign? We'd have to add 220 and add 220. So how large was the book to begin with? It was 570 pages. That's my Y-intercept, everybody. That's what is equal to my B value. All right? So if I wanted to write this, all right, in slope-intercept form, it would be Y equals, what was my slope? Negative 55. Well, how do we know whether it's positive or negative? Well, if you're reading a book and it says you have a certain amount of pages left to read, that means your pages are doing what? Over time, they're going down. That's why I know it's going to be a negative slope. All right? And what are we going to add at the end? Put X, sorry. What are we adding? What do we start at? Nope, not 220. What did we start out at? We start out at 570. All right, 570. So I'm going to carefully write this in. Y equals, I'm going to type in negative 55x, and we're started out at plus 570. Now, here's something you guys can do. In Desmos, I'm going to go ahead and delete everything. All right? If I type in my answer, y equals negative 55x plus 570, and I make a table, and I type in the number 4, look what happens. At 4 hours, how much do I have left? 350. All right? If I wanted to figure out how long it was going to take me to finish the book, it's going to take me just over 10 hours to finish that book if I wanted to read it in one sitting if I started out with 570 pages. So I feel pretty confident that we got our answers correct. All right? Now, if you miss one of these, do not just hit next question. Make sure you say see step-by-step solution and see what they did, okay, to solve it. All right. By the way, you guys have the rest of the period to go ahead and try to, hey, I'm going to give you guys more time to work on this one tomorrow right here. I'll have to give you more time. Try to get the first ones that we did. Get those, work on those. All right. So you'll have more time. I'm gonna go ahead and keep doing the video while you guys work. You guys go ahead and get started. So you don't worry about paying attention to me. You guys just get to work for the rest of the period. All right. So I'm gonna do one more of these. Mr. Mole left his burrow that lies below the ground. If it's below the ground, that lets you know that your y-intercept is negative, and started digging his way at a constant rate deeper into the ground. After 5 minutes of descending at a rate of 1.8 meters per minute, he was 13.5 meters below the ground. So once again, if he's digging down, that means this rate right here, that rate is negative. So I'm going to put m equals negative 1.8. I'm going to make a table. And I will always make a table when I'm doing these problems. It says after 5 minutes, so I'll put a 5, he was at 13.5 meters, keyword, below. So if I say 13.5 meters below, I got to make that a negative 13.5. This is where understanding the difference between positives and negatives. Below the ground is negative. Above the ground is positive. All right. So right now, I'm going to go and put y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. Go ahead and take the negative 1.8, plug it in there. Take my x value, plug it in right there. Take my y value, plug it in right here. All right, I'm going to turn on my graphing calculator. So my y value is negative 13.5. My m value is negative 1.8. And my x value is the number 5. And all I've got to do is find my y-intercept, my b value. So I multiply these two together. So I'm just going to take negative 1.8, multiply it by 5. I get negative 9. And then all I have to do is add 9 to both sides. Okay, so negative 13.5 plus 9. So negative 4.5. So his burrow started out at negative 4.5 meters below the ground. So here's the kind of the picture that you would see, all right, if we were to draw a picture of this. So imagine Mr. Mole, here we go, was in his burrow underneath the ground right here, and then he started, from that point, he started digging down. And that's what's happening. All right, our y-intercept's negative 4.5, and our slope is negative 1.8. So my answer that I'm going to write in the Khan Academy is y equals negative 1.8x minus 4.5. That's my slope, and that's my y-intercept. So I'll go ahead and write that in now. Negative 1.8x minus 4.5. Sure I typed it in. There we go. All right, this takes a little bit more time and effort. You actually have to know, how to use this formula, y equals mx plus b. So quick little review. Take your slope, plug it in. Take your x value, plug it in. Take your y value, plug it in. And then solve for your b value. And then you can write your answer in slope-intercept form. That's it.